Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We're about ready to call the meeting to order here. So I'd like to welcome you all to our regularly scheduled meeting. Today is Monday, November the 24th, 2025, and we're here in the Municipal Chambers at 4305 Hamilton Road in Dorchester. The time is 5 p.m. on the dot, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. I'm not aware of any changes to the agenda. So on that basis, a mover and a seconder to approve. Councillor Heeman and Deputy Mayor Smyberg, all in favor? That carries. Thank you. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest from the members of council? None. Any announcements? And at this point, if Deputy Mayor would like to make an announcement.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank everyone, all those that attended the Festival of Lights on Friday. It was an amazing event. I just wanted to thank the Special Events Committee for all of their hard work in organizing the event. Special thanks to the community services staff who responded to our every need and request during the night. There really was a tremendous turnout, and I think we had a lot of really good feedback in terms of the number of trees this year that are lit in the park. So good job, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. Okay, moving on to presentations and delegations, which is item number 6 on your agenda. 6.1 Acorn Valley subdivision, objection to high density component of Acorn Valley, and Mark Lunick to speak. Would you mind just giving us your property address when you take the lectern there? I believe it is, but the number.
Well, good evening, everyone. And you're all from Wheeler, right? You're all here for us. Thank you, Mayor McMillan, Deputy Mayor Schneeberg, council, staff, and all the rest of everyone here today for supporting. This is community in action right here. This is great. I'm here on behalf of Wheeler residents to talk about the objection as it relates to the Acorn development for Block 175. I was here on October 20th, gave a presentation largely with the community input related to the traffic concerns around this development. The traffic concerns being material to Wheeler Ave, to Christie Ave, and to Harris Road. So since then, I've had an opportunity to think about this a lot more. And I've had some consultation with my neighbors. We've had some research done. And so we've put together this objection that is focusing on the high density. And we really believe it's relevant. We've researched the OLT presidents, the Thames Valley Board, capital plans, Doug Terry's excellent track record. Ontario Housing Minister Rob Flack gave some comments on October 29th regarding how high density should be including sort of density, smart planning, and infrastructure initiatives, and traffic, and they're all very important. And so we kind of thought about that, and we're thinking about the various ways that we were looking at, scratching our heads, trying to make sense really of this development. The evidence appears clear. It's not a policy compliant development. It's an outlier that fails on location, infrastructure, and precedent is our conclusion. We continue to support the low and medium density portions of Acorn Valley with 2 new road accesses in alignment to trunk sewer placement. But we strongly oppose a high density block of 588 units, six stories, regardless of height 4, 5, or 6. And the main reasons, and this is 12 pages, I'm not going to go through everything. My neighbors have these pages. I know council has these pages. So I'm just going to go over high level on the objection. First and foremost, it's isolated. It's 3 to 4 kilometers if you get in a car. If you're at the high density, you're either going on Harris Road or you're going down through Wheeler down to Christie. And it's basically 3 to 4 kilometers to anywhere. It's isolated. It's not walkable. Maybe walkable within the community with the developer thoughts in terms of how they're going to develop it. But in terms of getting to amenities, in terms of getting to schools, all the things that matter, the people have to travel. We don't think it's compliant with the provincial policy in terms of the walkability, and we don't think it leads to the smart city, smart uh, operation of having basically eliminating or significantly reducing the use of cars. There's an Ontario Land Tribunal that was a case precedent that refused to support high density, whether or not walkable. It was a Hamilton location. It was a suburban edge similar to this one. And basically this- the site tribunal reasoning was the site is not located within an urban node or corridor and not within a major transit station. There's no existing planned school or planned schools, community facilities, services, local commercial uses within walking distance. And unless a viable alternatives exist, including transit, provided within a walkable distance, I'm just reading, new residents will for the most part be reliant on automobiles. So that's the same situation we see here as it relates to Econ Valley. And, uh, and that's the issue that we have on that. We think it's a policy mismatch in terms of the PPO 2024 policy as it lies outside strategic growth area as beyond walking distance of transit schools and neighborhood serving commercial uses. We also think that according to that again, and Mr. Flack's comments on the capacity, I mean, you don't have to look far out here to the school to see how many portables you have right here. Um, the school, in my mind, this is the biggest bottleneck to this community growth, right there. So that River Heights has all these portables. They keep expanding by portables, and there's no new schools identified for the region. There really needs to be a school solution at the grade level identified by the Thames Valley Board as part of any solution for high density. So given the school overcapacity, absent transit, and municipalities, development pipeline, which is significant, there's a big glut of recent or proposed subdivisions in Dorchester. At my count, over 2,000 units, excluding Acorn, and so that's, or I guess just including Acorn, the low density, non-high density units. And so that's a lot of units. I know that there's a requirement, or at least a suggestion from provincial policy to have a certain number of years. But and I also know that there's a need to have high density in a controlled growth fashion in this environment. But I'm going to point to a certain article that's in here that is supporting that. Basically, some research done in 2021 for the latest version of the operating plan of the municipality, which said something to the effect that, you've got 200, by 2046, there's 256 apartment units that are forecast for Dorchester. And there's a table that laid this out. And so 2046, I mean, here we are right now, 2025, 2026 next year, we're over 20 years out. And we've got the potential for 588 high density units that is going to happen potentially if this is approved out there right now in a current farmer's field. And that's a lot of units. That's over 2x times what is required by 2046. And that's the point. And so I guess, and that's not including the potential for SIFT and Hawthorne, which we believe is actually the better place for this. It passes all the locational tests. Being it's on an arterial road, it's on a commercial, a budding commercial, it's abutting a major park or close to major park, and it is with the trails there, and the only thing I'm not sure about is the hectare size of it. The total hectare size meets compliance, but it appears to be compliant with all the rules of the operating plan 4.33, which is what Dorchester is recently, I guess, is amending, and so that's a concern. We mentioned the traffic. The traffic is what I presented last time. I have an updated traffic projection this time based on the traffic impact assessment study. It's a little bit more conservative on one front, but a little bit less on the other front, and that the high density average daily trips per day I had last time at 2.8. that's not realistic. I think with everything, you have to travel everywhere when you're out there at the Acorn high density. So what I've read, 5 is more appropriate multiplier for the average daily trips. And so I ratcheted down the forecast to 70% from 80%, and then I increased that. So it's right around still 5,400 trips that are generated by Acorn Valley, of which about 740 relate specifically to the high density and travel right down Wheeler Avenue. That's a lot of trips. That's a lot of trips down Wheeler Avenue, and that was a key part of our issue last time, and it continues to be. We talked about the schools being over capacity, or at least in particular this school right here, River Heights. You know, when you think about it, what is a high density ads? I mean, I did some math based on some research, but somewhere in the range of at 588, probably in the range of 150 new students. And so that exacerbates the issue with our schooling. Again, I mentioned the walk and how distant it is from that. We looked into precedents that were potentially in St. Thomas, potentially in Thorndale. We looked as far as Strathroy. We looked at our neighbor London. We couldn't find any precedents that really had a distance that was like, first of all, weren't located on at least a collector versus an arterial. Most of them are on arterials. And then the amenity factor, looking at the amenities within a reasonable, like let's just say within 1 kilometer. We could not find any. That's not saying there aren't any. It's just that in our research, we could not find any. So that's a concern. Even St. Thomas, I mean, I looked at Mr. Terry's, it appears as though they have one at 300 Manor in St. Thomas, which is 4 stories, which is built, and it's about 1 kilometer from transit, groceries, dining, etc. So the point being that is, you know, if we don't see this types of thing elsewhere, then why should we see this in Dorchester? And so I'm open to seeing precedents elsewhere, but I don't see any. And just, I guess, on the aspect we talked earlier about the strategic plan for the municipality, we think that the smart planning is number 1. That's a strategic plan pillar. Make smart planning decisions, maintaining hometown feel. We think certainly that's not, you know, if you have a 6-story out there close to Harris Road, they're concerned about it, the shadowing, the loss of value on property value, the loss of safety, and loss of quiet in Wheeler Avenue, so on and so forth. So that's a big concern. We also found that, you know, the housing mix and density targets, you know, recommended in a range of 35% medium density for affordability, 65% low density. So that so of the Acorns block currently, the way it's situated, it's calling for about 49% of the 1,200 units being high density, which is a mix issue, which I see and exacerbates the oversupply issue. And of course, it doesn't. We already mentioned it doesn't meet the core criteria. I do have a question regarding this. It seems that the operating policy has 4.33 has these 4 criteria that need to be met, 3 of the 4 anyways, and only 1 of the 4 is met in Acorn. And so there's another right after that's 4.331, which says that notwithstanding above, it cites some policy regarding called a special process or special policy area. I would like to ask the mayor, are you aware of that special policy area and any context as to when that was developed and what the purpose of that special policy area is? The context is with this map that was circulated with our package for the subject lands, said lands to be redesignated from residential to residential special policy area X.
Yeah, I'm not aware of anything currently, but
Okay.
it's the plan
Okay.
to create one.
So it is a policy that's embedded within the operating plan, and it seemed to me that it's a notwithstanding all the rules, this is the way it reads, notwithstanding all the rules situated, discussed before, being, you know, arterial access, abutting major park, et cetera, et cetera. It says, notwithstanding all that, you can consideration will be given to let you pass on the way of pass through criteria under this new criteria, which was based, seems to me, where it reads, based for some townhousing units in a especially single use situation, probably in the mid-teens or something as part of infill, and not particularly appropriate for a greenfield site, which of course Acorn Valley is. So I had that question because if it was especially for a specific use, then why is it being used or right now in terms of the request by the developer, by the applicant to as part of the solution here to get this approved? I don't know the answer. It's just a question that I have. And so when I take a look at, when we take a look at, we took a look at Hawthorne Park, and there's like 3 proposals for high density. I just chose the second proposal. It seemed to be, we talked about location, but it seemed to be that is the best location for if you're going to have high density in Dorchester. You've got it on arterial, you've got commercial right there, you got no frills, everything's walkable, and the character change aspect. Good. Okay, 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 okay. Thank you. So just fast forwarding, Ontario road hierarchy, we talked about that. It fails on that. It's local roads are Wheeler and Christie and Harris, and that fails with the high density. We think that a particular solution would be that if there was no high density buildings permits permitted above like four floors and higher until all the following triggers are met. Hawthorne is fully approved and is policy compliant. Hawthorne Park high density achieves 80% occupancy, which is a target to prove out the market for this particular type of building. And then there's no worsening of our neighbor here with River Heights school capacity. And finally, that Thames Valley has a new school that's scheduled and will be capitalized in the next year or so. So we think those recommendations would be reasonable for any high density to be considered in Acorn. And so that's kind of our position on that. And that's the crux of our objection. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Lanick, and thank you to all the residents who have done an extreme amount of work on this. As you know, we will be providing an update at some point in the future after we've taken into consideration some of these comments. In the meantime, I'm going to turn this over to council in case they have any questions or comments they'd like to make. Councillor Crockett.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Mark. I apologize to everyone that I wasn't here back in October 20th. This is the reason why. I'm not just like awkwardly grunting behind the table here. But I do appreciate that the mayor allowed me the opportunity to submit my comments in writing that she read out that evening. And I do just want to reiterate that my concern revolved heavily around the high density portion of it. I think we're all in agreement, and especially reciting your comments this evening that the green space and kind of the low, even the medium density proposal fits within the existing residential areas. Further to that, I have been chatting with staff on just kind of what the process would be right now. And in my initial thoughts, I really thought that it was imperative that a second public meeting be scheduled because there are so many comments and so many various views on this. And in particular, just on a number of things, schools, roads, building, etc. So I do just want to say or share that a second public meeting has not been scheduled since everything is with the applicant right now and kind of working through responding to comments, not only just from yourselves, but also other agencies, departments, as well as the public, as well as revising some technical documents to respond to the issues brought forward as well. Aaron might have some additional information to share on that. I also asked them just how conversations with Doug Terry representatives has been. Being a local developer and someone that I think has been very willing to work with the municipality, they're very open to the feedback that we've been sharing with them. So I do appreciate you taking the time, and they are looking at that. But no timeline has been provided, as I mentioned, but they are working towards responding to those initial comments. I also asked staff what is currently underway in the preparation for this. So apart from just responding to the existing comments and that, our engineering team are looking through a consultation process, specifically around the traffic impact study. The applicant is working through responding to those questions as well, and as well as been in discussions with Boardwalk just regarding other services through their property, and then additional conversations with municipal staff. And then just wanted to conclude, and it was just something that I wanted to share, and I think, Mark, you're likely in the know about this, but also just other residents if they're unaware. I think it's really important that we continue to have the conversations with the developer, the public, the municipality, because we really want to build a solid collaborative solution instead of simply denying an application, because that kind of takes it out of our hands. I think we can all collectively work together to see what would be best fit for our community. And I think just really reiterating that the community representation, as you mentioned this evening, is just so important. And I really appreciate all of you coming out this evening. So thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Councillor.
Oh, I had one more.
Oh,
Only because I wrote it down right as I started talking. We have AMO, so the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, and I have put forward a potential delegation with the Ministry of Education. We have a number of issues. Oh, I knew she was going to start crying. I called this Jared. Around forecasting for future growth, as well as the existing capacity of schools here in Thames Centre. So we've spoken with them about this in the past, and I think it's going to be a continued conversation going forward. So thanks.
okay. Thank you very much for that. Other comments or questions? Councillor Heeman.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Mark, for that presentation. And I'm just going to echo a couple things that we talked about offline, just because you got a lot of community members here. So I think it's important for them to hear that as well, which is that it is important to work with the applicants, but it's also important to demonstrate your commitment to your concerns. And I think that, you know, if we can get a workable solution passed through council, that may be ideal. But if that is not to your satisfaction, then I would highly encourage you to work together as a group and seek legal representation and pursue an appeal of that decision. And I think letting your willingness to do so known at this time and being organized also strengthens the negotiating position that the municipality has, as this is a back and forth process. So just something to consider. And I know where there have been more contentious applications, the community did get representation and put in an appeal. And also if we are eventually to deny a certain aspect and that is appealed by the developer, we would hope that you would seek what's called a joiner status, which is where that you basically lodge those similar complaints in favor of the municipality's arguments. So those are not typical avenues that are discussed in planning, but I think you're a very organized group, and I think that's something that you should be considering. And again, having discussions in good faith and looking at all of the options, but you know, there's two sides to every argument. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Heeman. Anyone else? Deputy Mayor Slyberg.
Great.
Thank you. And it's just to kind of add on to what Councillor Crockett said with respect to the comments about building a school and making sure that that is in place before any more development can begin. We've been long been advocating. We've been to AMO before. We through our committee that we have, we used to have a trustee on that committee. We continually advocate and ask, right? We don't want to see portables. We want to see new infrastructure. The unfortunate thing is that there's only so much money that can go around. We're Thames Center, we're a small piece in the whole Thames Valley District School Board. And then there are many different school boards within the province, right? So we're competing for dollars, infrastructure dollars for that infrastructure. So I totally understand those concerns. We continue to advocate. It is frustrating though, because when we take a look, we want to make sure that we're providing the services that our residents deserve, and portables, that's not the solution. It's not only bad here in Dorchester, but Thorndale as well. And thank you again for raising all those good concerns. Thank you.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor Smyber. Councillor Heeman again?
Just one more comment. It has been identified that it doesn't meet the criteria for high density, and I think that is an important acknowledgement. And I think the challenge is there have been a lot of changes by the province that allow these types of things, and that's why you don't have the precedent right now. And what developers are trying to do is establish those precedents. And we do have a draft official plan that is in process that is more permissive because it is in line with the current provincial guidance, but that has not been, it's under appeal by somebody. And that leaves us in the position where we do have the older official plan. I believe that it is the intention that once we have the opportunity to amend the official plan again, because there have been additional changes, that is something that we wish to do. And that would allow us to identify target growth areas so that, yes, there are density targets, but then they are identified in a structured way versus an ad hoc way. So that is something that we would like to do so that we are not responding to developers, but until we get to that point, then it's as has been laid out today. So thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Heeman. If there's nothing else, then I would like to ask for a mover and a seconder that the presentation by Mark Lunick on behalf of Wheeler Avenue residents for smart growth regarding objection to high density component of Acorn Valley be received for information. A mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Crockett and seconded by Councillor Heeman. All in favor? That carries. Thank you very much, everybody, for your presence tonight. It's good to hear from our residents. Okay. All right. A mover and a seconder that council adjourn its regular meeting at 5:27 p.m. and move into public participation meetings pursuant to the Planning Act to consider applications listed on the November 24th, 2025 regular council agenda. Moved by Deputy Mayor Smybert and seconded by Councillor Crockett. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. All right. So first item on the agenda is 7.1, consent application B19-25, Dwight and Marie Hepburn as applicant, Stuart Finlater and Associates, Inc. as the agent, and the property address is 4818 Westchester Bourne on County Road 74. So an application overview by our planner, Lindsay. Go ahead.
Hi, everybody. Happy Monday. This report addresses application for consent B19-25, which proposes the transfer of approximately 30 acres from 4818 Westchester Bourne to 4684 Westchester Bourne for the purposes of a boundary adjustment. At a high level, I want to be very clear for council and all tuning in virtually and present in chambers tonight. While no agricultural land will be lost to a non-farm use, that does not mean there is no planning impact. In fact, the impact in the eyes of staff is considerable. From a land use perspective, the structure, size, and long-term viability of agricultural parcels are just as important as the land use itself. The application before you tonight would enlarge one existing 50-acre farm to approximately 80 acres and reduce the other 50 acres to roughly 20 acres. The applicants have stated that both parcels would continue in agricultural use. However, the planning framework in Ontario requires more than that. It requires that agricultural parcels themselves remain viable, appropriately sized, and protected from fragmentation. The conventional definition of viable is capable of working successfully. In a planning advisory committee meeting on April 24th, 2025, where the county contemplated the minimum farm size, Rob Stovall, an agronomist, emphasized that viability is difficult to assess. However, he noted that viability in agriculture should consider flexibility, like being able to shift business models and strategies for changing weather conditions and market conditions, etc., both of which are easier to manage on larger farm parcels to ensure viability and the tenure of agricultural operations. Before I dive into my assessment, I want to stress the role of the professional planner in this instance. As a registered professional planner, my responsibility is not to advocate for or against individual applicants, nor to evaluate applications based on personal preference or specific operational circumstances. My role is to evaluate every application through the lens of the Planning Act, the Provincial Planning Statement, County of Middlesex and Thames Centre official plans, our zoning bylaw, and other long-term land use planning principles. Professional planners in Ontario have a legislative obligation to protect the public interest, apply provincial and municipal policy consistently, ensure decisions are defensible, and uphold the long-term integrity of the agricultural land base, which is a matter of provincial interest under Section 2 of the Planning Act. In agricultural areas, this means assessing not only how the land is used today, but whether the parcel structure remains viable, flexible, and consistent with long-term policy direction. This means well into the future beyond current ownership and operations. So when staff recommend refusal in this instance, it is not a judgment on the specific farmers or their intentions. It reflects my professional obligation to ensure that all recommendations are aligned with broader legislative framework and that future applications can be evaluated fairly. This helps protect the municipality and upholds the integrity of planning decisions in the long term. To begin, Section 2 of the Planning Act requires all decision makers to have regards for matters of provincial interest. This includes the protection of agricultural resources in the province. Reducing a 50-acre prime agricultural parcel to a 20-acre remnant undermines these provincial interests by creating long-term undersized agricultural unit that cannot function as part of a larger flexible farming block. This is not a no-impact situation because farming continues. The form, size, viability of the parcels themselves are central to the protection of agricultural resources. Under Section 3, decisions must be consistent with the provincial planning statement. There are key PPS policies directly in conflict with this proposal. Section 4.3.1 of the PPS states that prime agricultural areas must be protected for long-term use of agriculture. This means maintaining viable parcels, not just maintaining the agricultural use on them. Section 4.3.3 indicates that lot creation in prime ag areas is discouraged and only permitted in narrow circumstances, including agricultural uses with appropriate lot sizes, agricultural related uses requiring minimum necessary land, surplus farm dwelling severances, and essential infrastructure. This proposal does not fall within any of those permitted categories. Further, the PPS permits boundary adjustments only when they are for minor legal or technical reasons. The transfer of 30 acres is not minor by any measure, and this application does not address any technical or legal deficiency. It is a functional reconfiguration of 2 farm units. By PPS definition, this cannot be considered a minor boundary adjustment, and this application fails that test. I also want to draw Council's attention to the provincial guidance by OMAFA regarding farm parcel size and agricultural viability because it speaks directly to why parcel structure and not just the use is so important in planning decisions. OMAFA is very clear that in general, the larger the farm parcel, the more adaptable it is to changing conditions and the more efficient it is to run the farm. Keeping farms large enough to maintain flexibility is key to agricultural viability and to achieving the PPS requirement of protecting prime ag areas for long-term use. This guidance reinforces that agricultural viability is tied not only to whether the land continues to be farmed the same way that it is today, but to the size and flexibility of the parcel itself over time. To summarize this, the province stresses that agricultural parcel size must be sufficient to accommodate future shifts in crop type, equipment, technology, and economics. A 20-acre parcel does not meet that test in the same way a larger parcel would, thus inadvertently impacting the viability of farming operations on that specific parcel well beyond today's uses. That is why both the PPS and local official plans are so explicit about maintaining large, contiguous parcels and why a reduction from 50 acres to 20 is not consistent with that provincial intent. The county OP as well is unequivocal. Section 2.3.9 states that fragmentation of farm holdings is to be discouraged. Section 3.3.2 speaks to farm parcels remaining sufficiently large to ensure flexibility and economic viability. Any new parcels less than 40 hectares will not be permitted. This proposal would reduce a parcel to 20 acres, which is half the size of the original farm and a fraction of the OP's minimum standard for a viable parcel. Section 4.5.3.4 mentions that minor boundary adjustments may only be considered if they do not create a non-viable parcel and agricultural activities are not adversely affected. This section goes further and states that farm lot sizes shall be sufficiently large for those contiguous farm blocks and maintain flexibility to adapt to future changes in ag use and to avoid the unwanted fragmentation of farmland. The local OP speaks even more strongly that only permitted severance types in agricultural zones is surplus dwelling farm severance, with provisions indicating that house lots be small enough to only contain the septic in the dwelling to reduce impacts on the size of the remaining farmland. Although this proposal is not a surplus farm dwelling severance, the principles to keep parcels of a sufficient size are relevant. Going further, section 2.27.3 states that the municipality must have regard to the following for all consents in the ag area: the need to discourage fragmentation, agricultural capability, consistency with the PPS and county OP, and the minimum farm parcel size. The application conflicts with all four of these. Further, minor boundary adjustments may only be considered if they do not create non-viable parcels, and by the municipality's own policy framework, this does not meet that. These sections direct the municipality to, and I quote, control the fragmentation of lands within agricultural areas, fragmentation of agricultural land into increasingly smaller parcels through severances results in parcel sizes that are not useful or available to agriculture. This boundary adjustment achieves the opposite, reducing an already below standard parcel into a smaller one. Council may hear that this proposal does not take any farmland out of production, and the truth is simply not taking any farmland out of production is not the test under the Planning Act, the PPS, or the official plan that is the concern here. The planning impact arises from the fragmentation. Reducing a 50-acre parcel to 20 acres creates a unit that does not meet and becomes further away from the 40-hectare minimum, fragments the large contiguous agricultural blocks that these policies intend to protect, and undermines the long-term flexibility of that land for future agricultural uses. That is the very outcome that all three policy frameworks are designed to prevent. Before closing, I'd like to offer some broader context that may help everyone in understanding the long-range implications of a decision on this file. I want to emphasize that this is not simply about one boundary adjustment on Westchester Bourne. Agricultural severances and enlargements are something that we are beginning to see more interest in our office. Landowners are observing how these applications are handled both here and across the county. The provincial and county and Thames Center policy frameworks all rely on a consistent interpretation of key terms, especially the term minor boundary adjustment. The PPS is very clear. A transfer of approximately 30 acres is not minor under any conventional interpretation. In the agricultural context, these interpretations matter greatly because of parcel size expectations remaining consistent, fragmentation policies relying on predictable interpretation, and viability standards being applied equally. I received a call today which spoke to the intent of these policies, reference from a member of the public, and we had a great conversation on the impact of these. We spoke about a certain number of agricultural lots in Thames Center being smaller, only able to accommodate a certain number of ag uses due to lot configuration and size, and this is exactly the point. Although the uses as existing would continue long-term, we have created a 20-acre agricultural parcel that limits what this could be used for in the foreseeable future. Any comments received are attached to the report in accordance with the regulations dictated in the Planning Act. In closing, I want to emphasize that it is my professional opinion as senior planner for Thames Center that the proposed boundary adjustment does not represent a minor lot correction as contemplated by the PPS. The transfer of approximately 30 acres would significantly alter the existing agricultural parcel structure, reduce a viable 50-acre farm to an undersized 20-acre holding, and compromise long-term agricultural flexibility for future owners. The application is inconsistent with the PPS, does not conform to the agricultural policies of the county or local OP, and contravenes guidance given by OMAFA for maintaining large contiguous farm parcels. The resulting configuration would contribute to the fragmentation of our agricultural land base and undermine long-term viability and flexibility. Based on the foregoing, staff therefore recommend refusal of consent application B19-25. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Nguyen. So some additional information, Mr. Bindater, you have comments? Okay.
On mic on, okay. First of all, I'd like to thank Council for the opportunity to speak tonight on this application. I've reviewed the planner's report and recommendation, and I will be providing Council with my professional planning opinion on the merits of this application this evening. While the report is quite lengthy, the crux of the reasons for recommending denial are outlined basically in the 4 bullet points on the first page of the report. And my comments this evening will concentrate on those 4 points. So just to quickly summarize, the application was refused because the proposed 30-acre boundary adjustment is not minor and therefore does not qualify as a legal or technical lot correction under the PPS definition. It materially alters the size, configuration, and long-term viability of both agricultural parcels. There is no definitive determination of what minor is or refers to in the PPS or any other planning legislation. The exact wording being relied on in the definition of illegal or technical reasons, as referenced in section 4.3.3 of the PPS, means severances for the purposes such as easements, just we're not looking for that, corrections of deeds, we're not looking for that, quit claims, we're not looking for that, and minor boundary adjustments that do not result in the creation of a new lot. I'd just like to point out to Council that the OLT's predecessor, the Intermunicipal Board, determined that the complete elimination of a standard could be considered minor in terms of a minor variance if deemed appropriate in circumstances. So I would suggest you not get hung up on the term minor boundary adjustment in this case. I mean, the important thing, the important issue, in my opinion, is what the result of the boundary adjustment is. So to be clear, we're not seeking a lot line correction. We're seeking a boundary line adjustment, which does not create a new lot and does not material long-term viability of either parcel, in my professional opinion. As such, I would disagree with the assertion that the application does not qualify as a boundary line adjustment under the PPS definition. The second point is a reduction of primary agricultural parcel from 50 acres to 20 acres is contrary to Section 2 of the Planning Act and the PPS, which require the protection of agricultural resources and discouragement of fragmentation of primary agricultural land. I do not believe this boundary line adjustment is contrary to Section 2 of the Planning Act, which simply states that Council shall have regard to the protection of agricultural resources of the province. These lands are going to continue to be utilized for agricultural purposes exactly as they are today. In any event, the only difference will be the back 30 acres will be merged into ownership of the abutting Brown property rather than being rented out to an absentee corporation. The front 20 acre will continue to be operated as a viable equestrian horse operation. It's interesting to note that in the Planning Legislative Framework in Ontario document, which was recently produced by the Ontario Professional Planners Institute, they state, shall have regard to as being found by the Ontario Land Tribunal and its predecessors to mean the requirements need to be carefully considered, but don't have to be followed. So you have to have regard for it. I don't think this application disregards agricultural land and the agricultural resources of the province. And I'm not aware of any reference in Section 2 of the Planning Act regarding fragmentation of farmland. Section 4.3 of the provincial planning statement deals with agricultural policies. While it does contain policies to protect agricultural land base for long-term use for agriculture, it does not contain, in my opinion, any policy regarding fragmentation of farmland. In any event, the policies related to lot creation are not applicable in this instance, as we are looking at a boundary line adjustment, not a new lot creation. Therefore, in my opinion, the application does not contravene the Planning Act, is consistent with section 4.3.2 of the PPS, which is boundary line adjustment, which it permits. The fourth point, the resulting 20-acre retained parcel and the 80-acre enlarged parcel both fail to meet the 40-hectare minimum farm parcel size established by the Thames Center zoning bylaw and reinforced by both the county and local official plan as the benchmark for long-term agricultural viability. Both of these lots, as the planners indicated, are already undersized in terms of the arbitrary 100-acre minimum lot size in the current zoning bylaw. One's obviously going to become larger and the other is going to become smaller. But in my opinion, neither will become unviable. The equestrian operation has survived there since the mid-1980s, utilizing the same 20 acres being proposed to be retained in this application. They've always rented out the back 30 acres to absentee farm corporations and haven't utilized it as part of their operation. You know, we talk about farm parcel size and agronomists and those sort of things. Large farms, obviously, if you're cash cropping, the larger the farm, the better. If you got dairy operation or a beef operation, the larger the parcel, the better. Small, you know, hobby horse farm basically doesn't require more than 20 acres. And I don't think that that has any conflict with any policy that we're talking about tonight. So again, we're simply seeking a boundary line adjustment with no new lot being created as permitted by both the county and the Thames Center official plan. The crux of it is you consider it minor or not. And I've already said earlier that a standard in a bylaw or whatever can be completely eliminated and still be considered minor by the Ontario Municipal Board. So I think you need to look at the end result of what is happening with this application and not get hung up on the word minor. I too had discussions with members of the agriculture community and they have confirmed or indicated there are many farms of this size across Middlesex County in the province that are successful in their own rights. So as such, I do not agree this boundary line adjustment is subject to the lot creation policies of the official plan of the county and Thames Center. I mean, if you look at the section of the official plan, there's two parts to it. The first part talks about lot creation and it has all the minimum, you know, no fragmentation. Fragmentation is when you have a lot and you split it into two or more lots. So you create an additional lot. That is fragmentation. We are not creating any new lot. We have two lots now. We'll have two lots when it's done. Either way, whatever council does tonight, there'll be two lots tonight, there'll be two lots tomorrow. They may be a different size tomorrow if you approve it, but we're not adding anything. And I think a lot of the analysis in the planning report deals with new lots being created. And there's no new lot being created here. We're dealing with the boundary line adjustment policies, which are pretty basic. There's not a lot of meat on the bone, if you so to speak, of those policies. And so that goes towards the last point. The proposal contributes to the fragmentation of the agricultural land base, directly conflicting with the county and Thames Center OP sections, which discourage dividing larger lots into smaller holdings. We're not dividing the lot. There's an adjustment in the boundaries of the two lots. If we were dividing the lot down the middle and creating 225 acres, that I understand would be contrary to the official plan. But you have a policy that allows boundary line adjustments. That's what we're asking for. So in my opinion, as I've already stated, the policies that are referred to throughout the report really relate to the creation of new farm parcels, not those involved in boundary line adjustments. The 30 acre and the 50 acre parcels proposed to be merged will continue to be utilized for cash crop. The 20 acre will continue to be utilized as a horse operations, as has been since the mid-1980s. Conveying the 30 acres rather than renting it out in no way adversely affects agricultural production. It makes it 80 acres for cash cropping, which is what the size parcels generally are intended to achieve. 20 acre horse farm doesn't need great land, great soil, agronomist studies, it's a horse farm. And it can operate on on 20 hectares or 20 acres, sorry. From people that I spoke to, I don't pretend to be an expert in horse farming, but the people I spoke to said that is a reasonable size for an operation such as that. And the PPS also talks about in the agricultural sections, promoting and preserving various types and sizes of operations. So it's not all about has to be 100 acres, has to be contiguous, have to enlarge. I mean, there are farming operations that do not require 100 acres. So that's what we are recommending to you in this application, that I don't believe that it conflicts with any of the provincial policy, the county plan, or the township plan, if you deal with the proper sections, which is the boundary line adjustments. I understand, and it's included in your package, the Middlesex Federation of Agriculture has submitted a letter of support, no objections, whatever you want to call it. So while the planning report is long and detailed, it essentially concludes, in my opinion, this boundary line adjustment does not qualify as a legal or technical lot line correction of the PPS, that it is contrary to Section 2 of the Ontario Planning Act, and it doesn't comply with the County of Middlesex and Thames Centre official plan lot creation policies. It's my professional opinion, for the reasons stated this evening, that this application should be considered a minor boundary line adjustment under the PPS definition, that the application does not contravene Section 2 of the Ontario Planning Act, and it does conform with the boundary line adjustment policies of both the county and Thames Centre official plan. And I would ask that the application be approved as applied for. So that's all I have to say. And I think the Browns might want to say a word, Your Worship, if that's, let's take a seat.
Thanks, Mr. Finlater. So Mr. Brown, are you interested in commenting? Go ahead.
Thank you, Stuart. Thank you. I know you're feeling a bit under the weather tonight, so I really appreciate you coming out. Your Worship, honorable members of council, my name is Andrew Brown. My wife, Christine Brown, is with me tonight, and our youngest son, Morgan. Thanks for allowing me to speak on our behalf. Our neighbors, Dwight and Marie Hepburn, are feeling a bit under the weather today and regret that they're unable to join us. They've asked me to speak on their behalf as well. First of all, I'd like to thank all members of council and planning staff, and of course, Stuart Finlater, for helping guide us through this process. We understand and respect the fact that one of your goals is to protect as much as possible agricultural lands in our township for future generations. I'd also like to thank Lindsay and Amanda and Mayor McMillan for coming to visit our farm and seeing what we're all about. Christine and I have owned and actively farmed our 50-acre parcel at 4684 Westchester Bourne for over 30 years. We cash crop corn, no-till soybeans, and wheat with cover crops in rotation on about 45 acres of workable land. Over the years, we have planted a 3-acre woodlot with the help of the Upper Thames Conservation Authority, and we have systematically tiled the entire farm. For the past 37 years, our neighboring 50-acre farm, the subject of today's application, has been successfully operating as a horse farm, with Dwight and Marie Hepburn being the third owners in that span of time. In that 37-year history of our neighbor's farm, the back portion of workable land, comprised of about 30 acres, has been continually rented out to third parties by each successive owner, as Stuart has already mentioned. As a horse farm, each owner has only used the front 20 acres, including the horse barn, hay field, and paddocks, with the back 30 acres being surplus lands to their farming business. Dwight and Marie have spent a lifetime breeding, training, and racing standardbred horses, and they currently own and keep 10 standardbred horses. The lands they propose to retain have an adequate hay crop and paddocks for these 10 horses. These properties are on the headwaters of the Upper Thames watershed. Although the map does not show the topography, our neighbor's farm sits at an elevation above our farm, and significant surface water flows towards Dingman Creek municipal drain. To prevent soil erosion, we have used permanent grass waterways and residue management on our land to handle this runoff. Potential ownership of the 30 acres would give us an opportunity to address this continual source of soil erosion. As you might understand, there's a difference between owning and renting land, especially when it comes to using best practices for stewardship and to protect that land for future generations. If you're a land renter with no certainty about how long you'll keep that land, it's just not practical to invest the time, effort, and finances to improve and preserve that rented land. With no disrespect to the former and current owners of the neighbor's farm, each successive horse operation has been able to be viable without directly cropping the full 50 acres. Although there is much debate over what makes a viable farm, we and our neighbors, the Hepburns, are and will continue to be below the 48 hectare or 100-acre size that seems to be the benchmark for planning purposes. We strongly feel that by owning the additional 30 acres, we will be more viable and we will be able to use the better stewardship practices that would be practical, not be practical for renters, and we will be better able to preserve and improve that land for farming into the future. Again, on behalf of Christine and I and Dwight and Marie Hepburn, I thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak to council tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Brown. So anyone in the chambers who wishes to speak to this matter? I don't see anyone. Sarah, do we have anyone online?
There's no one online, your worship.
Oh, okay, then. In that case, then I will turn it over to any questions or comments from the members of council. Councillor Crockett, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say thank you to both our planning staff as well as the Finlaters, Browns, and Hepburns for bringing this forward and really doing your due diligence on this application. I know that it's a unique ask. So with that, I just want to point out a number of things that I think I took into consideration when analyzing the report. The first being the viability. Understanding that there has to be a benchmark for planning purposes. It seems as though the viability of both of these farming parcels with the boundary line adjustment is going to be viable for the applicants in particular. Second to that is I just wanted to kind of express my feelings on succession of farming operations. It's becoming increasingly difficult for folks to get into the farming community because of the price of land availability, as well as other factors. And I think seeing that both of these farms will be viable with this boundary line adjustment, it proves that succession is possible, even on smaller parcels of land. And with that, I'm going to be voting in agreement for this boundary line adjustment. And I think I'll pass it over to the rest of the members of council, but it is a unique opportunity and I anticipate more coming forward. And I understand that there needs to be planning application parameters put in place. But I think for situations such as this, there's also merit on seeing through what works best for our current residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Crockett. Anyone else with a comment? Councillor Heeman.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think it's interesting how we are seeing a lot of leniency towards smaller sized residential units, but not seeing the same change towards smaller agricultural units. And I think that, you know, we have to look at the bigger picture in terms of why that is. I think there was an initiative to make smaller actual severance lots by the province, and it was denied. And it was denied because of the concern of setback limits to allow for viable agricultural activities, right? That's where this rule comes from. And the rule comes from a lot of the large livestock grain croppers and landowners, and their lobbying groups. And you don't have the same initiative or lobbying strength coming from the smaller organizations that can make viable livings on smaller lots. Just a personal story, uh, where I live is an undersized lot. It's 20 acres, and my parents were able to buy that because it was affordable. And then they bought another 20-acre lot, and then they bought a 50-acre lot and a 100-acre lot. So I think, like we see in housing, there is a continuum of what is viable in agriculture. And I think that, they were all 100-acre lots back in the day when they were first cleared and surveyed, and things have changed. And I agree that there should be those limits for having preserving the viability of larger operations. But I think that we're a community, and when we work together and we make sure that we're taking care of the land and each other, then I think these types of things can be permitted. So thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Human. Deputy Mayor Smybert.
Thank you. I concur with both Councillor Heeman and Councillor Crockett. I think for me, the fact that no new lot is being created, and in fact, it actually goes more than that, because at the end of the day, the farms will retain the existing agricultural uses on both of those properties. So for me, nothing's changing, but I'm not an expert in agricultural viability, that type of thing. That's why, I like to my friends to provide some input on that. And knowing that we had a letter of support from the MFA and from other people in the agricultural industry who have indicated support for approval of the application, has really kind of helped me kind of process this. I appreciate there are different interpretations of the provincial policy statement, the official plan, the zoning bylaw. But on this one, I am in support of the application, which brings me to a question, actually, because the staff recommendation is to deny. So even if we wanted to approve, we don't have the conditions in front of us. So just looking to staff to see what the solution is.
Yes, through you, your worship, to Deputy Mayor Smybert, I would recommend deferral for staff to put our heads together and get some conditions on paper, so we're doing this right, and bringing it back to the next available council meeting for consideration.
Okay. All right. So we will, I guess what we will do at this time is, first of all, we'll close the, if there is no further discussion from anyone else, then we will move to close the public participation meeting. So we would need a new, depending on how council votes on this particular one, we may or may not need a deferral.
I do have a recommendation for be deferred back to staff to develop the conditions, should that be the way you guys wish to go. But if you'd like to approve it with conditions, I'm not sure we have those available and ready.
So then just to the clerk, is it best to defer to the next meeting and for the conditions?
Generally, yes, because conditions, with consent, it's generally with specific conditions. So it would depend on what other staff said and things like that. So the planner can add to that if she has more information.
Through you, your worship, yes, it would be beneficial for staff to discuss with internal agencies what they would require from a conditions standpoint, which shouldn't take too long to confirm those things. Just want to make sure we're not missing anything and doing it properly, as mentioned.
Thanks, Lindsay. So a wording, Jana, then, or no, Deputy Mayor, sorry.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
so I'll go ahead and move that we defer this planning application so that staff can prepare conditions for council to consider at a future meeting. Next would be nice if if staff can do that. The
Next.
sooner the better. Yep.
Next. Okay,
You got it.
doable. All right then. Okay then, so we will say next meeting then. A seconder for that motion. Councillor Crockett, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay. Yeah, all right then. Then what we will do then is we'll ask you to come back next meeting with the recommended conditions.
Just to clarify, I'm not opposed to approving it. I think normally we get conditions and I think it's unfair that we have to wait.
Okay. Duly noted. All right, thank you. All right. Thank you to everyone who's attended. Hope you feel go get your flu shot if you haven't had it. Right, so the next application before us is 7.2 zoning bylaw amendment, application for temporary use Z 24-25, Jarno Slay applicant, and the property address is 4201 Pegram Road. And Ms. Besh is presenting tonight, so go ahead when you're ready.
Thank you very much. Through you to the rest of council. The purpose and effect of this application is to permit the establishment of a mobile home to provide accommodation for an employee of the farming operation for a temporary period to not exceed 10 years, which is otherwise not permitted. The subject property is a 42-hectare farm parcel located on the west side of Pegram Road. The lands contain 2 single detached dwellings constructed in 1978 and 1999. This would predate our existing zoning bylaw, thereby making them legal non-conforming. The property also contains several agricultural buildings. However, I do want to note that the aerial photo that is used for the location map was from 2020. It no longer has the majority of the agricultural structures that are on the aerial. You can the Google Maps has it more up to date, and it's been significantly cleaned up on the property. The lands are privately serviced with an individual well and septic system. The property also contains an old schoolhouse, which is situated more south on the property. The current owner has converted this building into a short-term rental unit, which is not permitted under our existing zoning. However, we are aware of this matter and we are working with the landowner to address it, but it is not subject to this current application. That is sort of being dealt with as a separate situation. So the applicant is proposing to establish a mobile home for a temporary period of up to 10 years to provide a temporary alternative housing option for an employee of the farm. A mobile home is not otherwise a permitted use on the property, so therefore planning approval is required. The proposed location is immediately south of the converted schoolhouse. On the location map, we've done a little insert, a little zoom in of the southern part of the property where you can see it's located just south of the schoolhouse. So during the circulation period, I did receive correspondence from the neighbor to the south, being 4405 Pegram Road. The landowner advised that they are currently involved in a court process with the applicant concerning ownership, a disagreement in ownership of the southern portion of the lands. They requested that the application be deferred pending the outcome of that case. I did review all of the legal documentation that they provided to me. I note that the disputed lands are described as being south of the existing fence line, whereas the proposed mobile home is actually north of the existing fence line and would be located approximately 26 meters from the fence, which if the court case is determined whatever way it goes, that would still continue to meet the zoning setbacks of the agricultural zone. So I am of the opinion that it is proposed wholly contained on the applicant's lands. However, I do want to note too that this specific application, although we do show where the applicant is proposing, this is just sort of a blanket approval for the entire property. If so decided, if the court case goes a different route, they could certainly locate it elsewhere and would not need to come back for an additional approval. It's just for the mobile home permission on the site. The subject property, for my analysis, the subject property is located within the agricultural area and is zoned general agricultural, the A zone. Both the county and Thames Center official plans contemplate the use of mobile homes on a temporary basis, provided certain criteria are met. The use must be temporary in nature, must not generate adverse impacts on the surrounding area, must be adequately serviced, and must not create undue traffic concerns. Planning staff are satisfied that the proposed temporary mobile home can meet these criteria. Under our official plan as well, council may authorize the temporary use of a mobile home for up to 10 years. The Planning Act does allow subsequent approvals at the expiry of the 10 years, but that would be up for three years at a time and be up to the applicant to make the application every single time. The Act also permits the municipality to require the owner to enter into an agreement. Prior to the passage of the temporary use bylaw, it is recommended that the owner enter into an agreement confirming the removal of the mobile home prior to the expiry of the approval and providing a $5,000 security deposit at time of building permit issuance. A draft agreement has been prepared for council's consideration this evening. I do want to note that there is a difference here. So I know we oftentimes talk about ARUs, ADUs, additional units. I'm not trying to muddy the waters here. This is very much a separate section of the Planning Act that deals with mobile homes, or we call them garden suites. It used to be called granny suites. It is very much a temporary use. The ADU and ARU policies really speak to establishing permanent uses on the site. So I don't want to make any confusion. This is not an ADU or an ARU. This is very much a separate thing. The application was circulated as part of the requirements of the Planning Act. The Director of Public Works advised that an entrance permit would be required for the installation of a proper driveway. There is a driveway already located at that area, so it would be up to them to determine at that time if it is satisfactory or if there's upgrades that are needed. The chief building official also advised that the building permit is required for the proposed mobile home, as well as a new septic system to serve the proposed home. Again, as I referenced earlier, we did receive a comment from 4405 Pigram Road. I'm not sure if they're in the gallery this evening to speak to that. They did recommend or request that the application be deferred until that outcome has been decided. But I've already given you my opinion on that earlier. So my recommendation this evening is approval. And again, the temporary use agreement and the implementing bylaw are both up for consideration as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin. Okay, any additional information from either the applicant or the property or an agent? Nothing? Okay. Anyone in the gallery wishing to speak? No? Okay. Sarah, anyone online?
Thank you, Your Worship. We have Steve Crosby. I'll bring him in.
Okay.
Hi, Mr. Crosby. Can you hear us okay?
Okay.
Can you hear me at this time?
Oh, we can hear you now. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Okay, as you mentioned, there's already 3 separate housing units on this farm, and this will be the 4th unit. One of them was, as you said correctly, put up as a temporary housing unit, similar to an Airbnb. This was on an area that was used for grazing of livestock by the previous owners, and now has been cleared for a driveway that was put off of the road to access that previous schoolhouse. So now you have 4 residents on this farm. So to me, it seems like 2 were existing, 3 now, that's an extra, and now you're looking for 4. So they they have a temporary residence there, yet they need another one to house an employee. Find it strange when there already is an extra one. The setbacks is suitable. That's fine if it's agricultural setback. That would work. Concerning really is the fact that this is there's a dispute about this property that's been before the landowner now for 3 years. There's been not a lot of effort to move forward with this. There's been a lot of effort on our part as the landowners to negotiate this, but we are not really receiving much in terms of replies from council from the other landowner. So it's a legal dispute, and it's a separate issue from this particular matter. I'd just like to see that we're not adding additional residences in that neighborhood unduly. I don't know what direction the county or the Thames Center wants to go with number of units on agricultural property, but I think 4 is likely beyond that number. 1, again, is normal. 2, well, it's an additional residential unit, and of course that's grandfathered in. 3, without asking for it and just erecting it and doing it without consulting your neighbors, the county, or anyone about it, that's a stretch. And now we're looking for the 4th. The one last remaining thing was that there was mention of traffic concerns. If an additional unit might create any traffic concern in the area. I will note that since the changing of hands from an Amish family and the purchase of that property, now it's being rented out and changed. There has been additional traffic. In fact, there was directly related to this an accident further down the road, resulting in the death of one of our neighbors in May of last year. So there are traffic concerns. Residential areas mixed with farm areas can often, lead to difficult road conditions when vehicles are passing each other. The roads aren't necessarily kept up the same. There can be farm implements more often at night and in different weather conditions and visibility conditions that can lead to troubling situations with traffic. And, people who are very busy with their work of farming and managing farms at times may, not be focused on driving, and that could result in accidents as well. So there's a traffic concern on top of the other matters. Again, from our perspective, we would like to at least see resolution to our legal issue before, agreeing to any proposed changes to the number of residences that are neighboring properties. And that's all I have.
Something happened there. Are you still online?
Yeah, I'm still here. I just wanted to say that that's all I have left to say.
Okay. All right then. Thank you very much. There's no one else online, Sarah, who wants to come in and speak?
There's no one else, Your
Okay.
Worship.
All right then. In that case, I'd like to hear from members of council. Any questions or comments on this application? Are you?
I was just wondering if I could get clarification from staff in terms of the number of dwellings and how that fits in the planning framework.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. So there's 2 existing dwellings that were both constructed prior to the establishment of our zoning bylaw, so they are legal non-conforming. So he's not required to remove one of the houses. They can be maintained on the property. There is also what was used as like a schoolhouse for Amish community, I believe. That was used just before the owner purchased the property. That was an institutional use. It was never like an agricultural building. That was converted to like a short-term rental use, similar to the Airbnb. That the applicant wishes to maintain that as an ARU. We're kind of dealing with that as a separate application because this is very specific to just the mobile home temporary use zoning provision of the Planning Act. That is sort of what we're focusing on today. But yes, there is, this would make it, I guess, the fourth unit on the property.
A follow-up? Yes.
Sorry, and through your worship, it's a little unconventional, but I believe that those are all permitted uses under the Planning Act, right? Like that, we can have an ARU and a trailer and whatever's existing previously, and even if you considered one accessory, one ancillary, that's still within the existing planning framework for residential lots, right?
Correct. I would say, obviously, in our zoning bylaw, it's not quite up to date, so we don't have the ARU provisions included yet. But very much it is permitted under the Planning Act and the PPS. The only, I guess, sort of difference is we don't see a lot of two-home properties also asking for a detached ARU. There's some discussion about what that looks like from OMAFRA, but ultimately, like I said, we are kind of trying to deal with that separately, but you're right. These are all generally permitted uses under in the agricultural area.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else before we move on? Oh, we went past that, but sure, come on up. And just the mic's there. There's a little button in the center. If you push it, it goes red. If you just want to state your name and your property address, please.
It's Jonas Slech at 4201 Big Rim Road. I just want to say thanks for letting me speak. Just on behalf of what neighbor talked about, like I said, the lawsuit doesn't have much to do with any of this. Schoolhouse as well. He says it was grazed at one point. It was purely used for the schoolhouse, for school institutional use. And where we're putting the mobile home is also where the institutional use used to be. So it's never been used for agricultural purposes. And we're not taking away any land in this area at the moment. So when it comes to the schoolhouse, it was ignorant on our behalf. We're trying to correct the situation, deal with that, and we're willing to do whatever it takes to fix that. And like Aaron had said, the mobile home is something totally different. It's for a farm employee, and yeah, it's a whole different zoning perspective. So, thank you.
All right, thank you for your comments. Okay, so is there anything else from council then before we move on? Okay, I don't see anything. So if there's no further discussion, the public oh,
Sorry, Your Worship. Mr. Crosby has his hand up.
Oh, all right. I'm sorry, I didn't see that. Go ahead. Are you still online, Mr. Crosby?
I thought it was muted there for a minute. Can you hear me? Okay.
We can hear you now.
Okay, thank you. Just about that last point that was raised, no, that land was grazed land. That schoolhouse was brought there in the 90s. I've lived there for decades, so I know what happened there. And even throughout the time that was used as a schoolhouse, there were animals grazing on that property while the schoolhouse was there. So that's just to correct that for you.
Okay. All right then. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right now, so I'm assuming there's no other discussion on this. So we have a decision before us that's amended to your agenda this evening. And, oh, I'm sorry. Councillor Heeman.
Additional question to Aaron. So the trailer placement is within the clustering requirements for domiciles, is that correct?
Through you, Madam Mayor. That is actually not a criteria of the temporary use mobile home. That is more specific. I mean, the list of criteria does say that it does not adversely affect agricultural operations and minimizes land taken out of production. That is certainly the case here, as it is just a, I guess, kind of a lawn. It's not currently in agricultural production. And it's being clustered with a building that is already, you know, it's not an agricultural building as well. But it's not it is a technically a criteria for the ARU, but not for the mobile home.
There's no restrictions on the placement regardless of previous use patterns. Yeah.
Okay. So back to the motion then before us. Do we have a mover and a seconder for that? Moved by Councillor Heeman and seconded by Deputy Mayor Smyberg. For the audience, the motion is also on the screen. All in favor? All right, that carries. Thank you, Aaron. And thanks to everybody here who were here tonight to speak on behalf of this application. Thanks very much for your attendance. Okay, we're going to move on to item number 7.3, zoning bylaw amendment application. Z7-25, Matthew Thompson as the applicant, and the property address is 22388 Valley View Road. So go ahead, Ms. Nguyen, when you're ready.
Back again. Hello. Thank you, Mayor. Through you, I'll provide an overview of zoning bylaw amendment Z7-25 for the property known municipally as 22388 Valley View Road. The applicant is requesting to rezone a portion of the rear of the property from environmental protection zone to a site-specific environmental protection zone to recognize an existing cabin that was constructed and serviced in 2023. No new development is being proposed at this time through this application. However, the cabin and its servicing were constructed prior to planning approvals and prior to any conservation from the Conservation Authority. The property itself is approximately 4.8 hectares. The front portion is about 2.9 hectares and designated and zoned rural residential. The rear portion is designated protection area and zoned environmental protection. This portion directly abuts the Thames River and falls within the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority's regulated area. The site is influenced by an extensive natural heritage and natural hazard policy framework at all levels, provincial, county, and local. Under Section 2 of the Planning Act, Council must have regard to matters of provincial interest, including the protection of ecological systems, the conservation of natural resources, appropriate location of development, and the protection of public health and safety. Further, under Section 3, all decisions must be consistent with the 2024 PPS. Across the PPS and the County of Middlesex official plan, as well as Thames Center's official plan, the direction is consistent and clear. Development is to be directed away from natural hazards and away from ecologically sensitive and protected natural heritage systems. It's true that the cabin is located within the CA regulated area, possibly within the erosion hazard limit and within the municipality's protection area designation, which is intended to support passive and ecological uses and not new structures. Under these policy frameworks, new buildings are generally prohibited unless no negative impact on natural features and associated functions can be proven. So the current status is that the applicant has submitted a development assessment report. However, that report speaks to pre-construction of the cabin. So given that it was built already, the applicant must provide a revised development assessment report assessing the constructed placement and identifying required mitigation. Through this application, the UTRCA has advised that they don't have a record of issuing a permit for this, so a retroactive permit likely will be required. They also reference that they need additional topographic information from the applicant to verify the slopes and the actual erosion hazard limit. as well as stability in regards to safe setbacks from the Thames. And additional technical studies, including a geotech review, may be necessary for them to determine compliance. Until this information is received and reviewed, both staff from our office and the UTRCA consider the application premature to make a recommendation at this time. And we cannot confirm the level of hazard risk associated with the cabin, whether mitigation is possible or appropriate, and whether the application can be consistent with overarching policy documents. Without these, we cannot provide a recommendation or move forward unless we are sure. So in summary, the cabin has been constructed. Required information from the applicant is still outstanding, but it is on its way. And staff and agency reviewers cannot determine consistency. Therefore, staff's recommendation today is to simply receive the report for information and bring it forward for a full evaluation and recommendation once all the technical review is complete. Thanks.
Thanks, Ms. Nord. Is there any additional information from the applicant in the chambers this evening? I don't believe so. Okay, then. Any public questions online?
There's
Or-
no one online, your worship.
Okay, and no one in the chambers? Okay, all right then. Any questions from the members of council? Councillor Heeman.
I'm just wondering if the hazard line is the previous one or the revised hazard line?
Through you, your worship, to Councillor Heeman, that's something that the UTRCA is working out with the applicant. So they need to see some clearer site plans in order to determine that, to assess if it's actually within the hazard or not.
But don't we have access to those tools as well?
Through you, your worship, the natural hazards piece is jurisdiction of the Conservation Authority. We're only assessing natural heritage at this point, although we do have the lines on our zoning bylaw delineating the EP zone. It's not accurate as per UTRCA actual hazard limits. So that's something that they're confirming.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from council? No? All right then. If there's no further,
Sorry, no,
you keep throwing me here.
I agree. I think that it's a little premature because we want to give them a chance to figure things out. And if there's no permit from the Upper Thames, then like normally you get your section 28 before you build. So it's, yeah.
All right. So if there's nothing else from council, then I'm going to close the public participation meeting. And we'll move to a decision which is before you. A mover and a seconder. We'll put it up on the screen. It's also on your agenda. There it is. Okay. Moved by Deputy Mayor Smyber and seconder, Councillor Crockett. All in favor? That carries. Thank you, Lindsay. Okay, then item 7.4 is to close the public participation meetings. That the planning public participation meeting adjourn at 6:32 p.m. in order to sit as the Committee of Adjustment under the Planning Act to consider a minor variance application A8-25 as listed on the November 24th, 2025 regular council agenda. A mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Crockett and seconded by Deputy Mayor Smyber. All in favor? That carries. Okay. Number 8, minor variance application A8-25, Scott and Tracy Foster as applicant, Aidan Corbett as the agent, and the property address is 454 Harrietsville Drive. And again, Ms. Besh, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. So this next application before council this evening, the purpose and effect of the application is to seek relief from the zoning bylaw as it relates to a minimum distance for a dog kennel to a dwelling on a separate lot. Specifically, the applicant is requesting permission to permit a setback of 64 meters and 155 meters to two dwellings on separate lots, whereas the zoning bylaw requires a minimum of 180 meters. This application would facilitate the construction of a kennel business to be located within an existing agricultural building on the property. I also want to add that the purpose of the report was also to provide council with information. It is not a request for a decision this evening, but I will talk a little bit about that at the end there. So the subject property is 42 hectares in size. It's an agricultural lot on the north side of Harrietsville Drive, east of Westchester Bourne. The lands contain a single detached dwelling, a barn currently being converted into a dwelling, a drive shed, and several small agricultural structures. 2 municipal drains traverse the property, including one that runs north from Harrietsville Drive before extending east. Both drains are regulated by Kettle Creek Conservation Authority. The applicants propose to establish a dog kennel within an existing agricultural building. The business is intended to operate as a small-scale dog daycare and boarding facility, accommodating a maximum of 15 daycare dogs and 5 overnight boarding dogs. The kennel area would occupy approximately 75 square meters within a steel-clad pole barn with an overall footprint of approximately 297 square meters. Hours of operation are proposed as 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. with boarded dogs receiving supervised on-leash morning and evening outdoor breaks. Daycare dogs would utilize an indoor activity area with a fully fenced outdoor play space on the west side of the building. It's identified as the red hatched area on the location map. And I'm not sure if you can really see, but there is a black hatched area at the back of the building, which is where the kennel would be proposed. Client visits would be by appointment only with staggered pickups and drop-offs to avoid congestion, and the applicants also intend to offer a community shuttle to reduce on-site traffic. The kennel would be operated by one of the agents, being the daughter of the landowners, who would be the sole employee for the foreseeable future. Dogs would be screened through behavioral assessments, and aggressive or excessively vocal animals would not be accepted. And a barking management policy would be actively enforced for outdoor activities. So under the current zoning bylaw, dog kennels must be a minimum of 180 meters from any dwelling on a separate lot. I think the intention behind that is just the more distance, the less sound that will travel. Based on the proposed kennel location within the existing barn, 2 dwellings fall within this setback, 466 and 469 Harrietsville Drive. So that is one. 466 is completely surrounded by the subject lands. It looks like it was severed off of the farm at some point in the past. And then the other structure being 469, and that is south of Harrietsville Drive across the road. Both of these distances are less than the 180 meters, and as a result, the variance is required. The applicants have advised that there is no other location on the property that is suitable for the kennel due to several physical and environmental constraints. In particular, a significant portion of the remaining lands are used for crop production. Relocating the kennel into these areas would disrupt crop rotation. Oh my goodness. Crop rotation, interfere with ongoing operations, and reduce productivity. Part of the property also contains naturally low-lying wetland, which is seasonally saturated and has unstable soils and high water table. Other constraints include a conservation pond and habitat area maintained by Ducks Unlimited, a recently reforested flood mitigation area, as well as the municipal drain that I previously mentioned, which is a physical barrier and includes a significant setbacks for building and structures. 466 Harrietsville Drive, again, is 0.3 hectares rural residential lot, previously severed from the subject lands. It's separated by a row of coniferous vegetation and a wooden fence. The dwelling is approximately 64 meters from the proposed kennel, and the one to the south, 469 Harrietsville Drive, is approximately 155. She is so patient and lovely. Sorry. To support the application, the applicants did retain a professional acoustic engineer to assess the proposal and provide noise mitigation recommendations. The supportive material has been distributed to council this evening in hard copy, but was also available attached to my report on eScribe, on the agenda rather. The mitigation strategy is multi-layered and in the consultant's opinion does achieve equivalent or greater level of noise reduction than the 180 alone would provide. So I did outline in my report 3 sort of primary noise mitigation efforts that they would be looking at. They provided examples of all of those, including enhanced wall assembly with using specialty construction materials and double layer spray foam insulation, a 2-door vestibule at the entrance nearest the residents to limit noise escaping from the building, an outdoor play area that is located behind the barn furthest from the residences. The barn itself would function as a substantial acoustic barrier between the outdoor activities and nearby dwellings, as well as a 6-foot solid metal fence to block line of sight triggers for the dogs in the outdoor area. In addition to sort of the physical noise control efforts, there is also operational noise efforts that are being recommended, including continuous supervision of dogs, immediate intervention in instances of barking, small managed play groups to avoid pack barking, and no activity outside before 7 a.m. or after 7 p.m. Indoor noise masking, including, perhaps Councillor Crock would be familiar with this, using white noise to block out, outside noises that might trigger barking, as well as security cameras equipped with sound alerts to notify staff concerns. The acoustic engineer concludes that the noise levels of the nearest dwellings will be inaudible and that the proposed design meets the intent of the 100-meter setback through engineered attenuation rather than just the distance setback. So I did circulate the noise report to Stantec, our peer review. I did not receive comments at the time of this report, so unfortunately I was not able to review whether or not they concurred with the noise mitigation efforts. So that sort of built the structure of this report and changed it sort of from a recommendation report into an information report, and the public meeting portion of the statutory obligations. I do, this is a significant decrease from the 180 meters to the 64. So I do believe there's an opportunity to ensure that the noise recommendations coming forward are adequate before I craft a recommendation, as well as information for council, make sure that you're satisfied with the information coming forward. The application was circulated to the prescribed bodies under the Planning Act. We did receive, of course, the letter of opposition from the owners at 466 Harrietsville Drive. They are the ones with the property that is completely surrounded by the subject lands. Their primary concerns are in relation to noise from dogs, both indoor and outdoor, and enjoyment of their property. Further, there are concerns that the operator of the business would not actually live on site and would be unable to correct issues as they arise. The residents believe that the applicant should be required to construct a building at the proper setback. So that being said, again, my information report is for council's consideration to be received for information. And there's the additional recommendation that staff be directed to provide a subsequent report once all public and agency comments received, as well as the peer review comments as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin. Okay, and is the applicant in the room and wishing to speak to this? Okay, would you like to take the podium, please? Oh. Sure, go ahead. Do you want to, and you are Mr. Scott Foster, okay.
Tom, you already know me. Anyway, Mayor, oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry, yeah, you got it.
A little closer, Mayor and Council, thank you very much for hearing this proposal. Aaron, you just covered it. So that was well done. You spoke earlier about succession planning and keeping agricultural land for agricultural land. And that is exactly the theme that we're working for here. This is my children, adult children, and her husband, Aiden. And this is exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to put businesses on the farm for the kids and keep the agricultural and the environmental side in order. And Aiden is a paramedic. He cares about everybody every day. My daughter has run kennels in malls where sound can be a big issue, and she's done them successfully with no complaints. And really that's our introduction. And I'm trying to promote my kids' succession planning to take over the farm. And thank you very much. Aidan?
Hi, so yeah, my name's Aidan. I'm Scott Foster's son-in-law. My wife is Sam there. That's our family supporting us here. I just wanted to say on behalf of them and myself, I want to say thanks for your time, for considering us today and taking time out of your day, as well as thanks to Lindsay and Aaron for the last month or so of work and coming out to the farm to kind of see what we're proposing here today. So I'd like to start by addressing kind of the main concern that was brought forward kind of proactively. We came to the county to talk to them about potential issues. We went to our neighbors with potential questions and concerns. It's kind of the main thing that was being brought up to us was sound. So I'd like to speak on some sound mitigation measures that Aaron had mentioned earlier. So I'd like to kind of briefly summarize our kennel's holistic approach to noise mitigation. So like Aaron mentioned, our plan kind of combines both building design, exterior layout, day-to-day operations, and dog training practices to minimize noise at the source and prevent it from reaching neighboring homes. So first, the building itself is actually going to be engineered for sound control. Like we mentioned, we did seek out a professional engineer in acoustics to help us with this. So we're going to be using specialty wall assemblies with double layer spray foam insulation in addition to fiberglass insulation. We're going to be using sound absorbing interior finishes such as rubber flooring. Framing is going to be installed on resilient brackets that help to reduce vibration to the exterior, so preventing any sound attenuation from making it outdoors. The entrance closest to the neighboring residence will include a two-door vestibule to prevent any direct sound escape. This will also kind of ensure that, I'll speak on it later, that we're going to be having kind of scheduled drop-offs and pickups, so there won't be multiple dogs in that facility at one time. So it'll be a vestibule with one dog at one time, so that if there is any noise, it's not going to be noise created by two dogs interacting with each other. It's just going to be person to person, and all the noise will be attenuated through that vestibule. So second, the site layout provides strong exterior noise control. So the outdoor play area is actually located, as you saw in the picture there, it's going to be located behind the barn, placing the greatest possible distance between dogs outside and any of the nearby residences, specifically the two in question here today. So the barn is going to function as a substantial acoustic barrier itself. We're then building a significant 6-foot solid metal barrier fence that's going to both block lines of sight as well as prevent any further sound attenuation. So blocking lines of sight helps with triggers that may set dogs off, such as people, animals, or vehicles. Again, helping to produce sound mitigation there. Third, our operational practices are designed to keep noise low. So the dogs are going to be constantly supervised both inside and out. Staff will intervene immediately if barking occurs with a stringent barking policy in place at all times. So now Aaron had noted that this barking policy would be in place outdoors, but it's also in place indoors. It's fully encompassing there. So the policy can be located in our supporting documents that we provided there. Just to touch quick on it, just kind of talks about our hours of outdoor activity, how they're going to be supervised, the types of group size that are going to be there to kind of prevent pack barking, training, noise policy specifically in regarding to the boarding dogs. So one here, there'll be a no nuisance barking rule is in place. So if a dog demonstrates consistent excessive barking that cannot be managed, the owner will be contacted for the dog to be picked up, and future daycare and boarding may be restricted and or refused for that dog if training through either on-site trainers or hired trainers cannot fix that ongoing issue. Then that pet and the pet parent will no longer be allowed at the facility to again help with noise mitigation, causing any impact on our neighbors there. So third, Yeah, sorry. So we're also going to be using small managed playgroups to prevent the pack barking. No outdoor daycare activities before 7 a.m. and or after 7 p.m. So any overnight dogs will be staying with us. So what we consider boarding dogs. They'll only be allowed outside after these times on a one-on-one basis on leash, short supervised outdoor breaks, just for them to just facilitate themselves outside. And then indoors at night, there will be background noise playing to reduce any reactivity, and security cameras with sound alerts will be monitored 24/7 by my wife. Any noise alerts will cause a notification that goes straight to her phone. Notifications will always be on, and action will be immediate if there's need for one. So finally, we're continuously addressing noise at the source through training. So my wife is trained to use positive reinforcement techniques that reduce reactivity and help dogs settle quickly. So this includes teaching impulse control to the dogs, rewarding quiet behavior, and redirecting triggers before it escalates into barking. So by incorporating these structured training into our daily routines, we can further reduce the likelihood of noise generation in the first place. And we also have the ability to consult directly with on-site dog trainers if needed to address any additional ongoing concerns that my wife is unable to handle at that time. So we have consulted with a professional engineer in acoustics. So his specialty was in acoustics. They have concluded that with all these measures in place, noise at the nearest dwelling will be effectively inaudible and will meet the intent of the 180 meters setback through engineered attenuation rather than just distance alone. So with all that being said, our goal here is to provide a small boutique style kennel that's designed, like Aaron said, to accommodate 10 to 15 dogs per day, up to 5 dogs overnight. This modest scale aligns with our goal of creating a low impact, well-managed operation that supports the long-term viability of our farm. So the kennel will provide additional stable revenue stream that strengthens the farm's economic sustainability and helps ensure successful succession for future generations, meaning myself and my wife. As a permitted agricultural use, the kennel fits squarely within the county's strategic planning direction, which encourages diversified and extended uses on agricultural lands to enhance their economic value and contribute positively to the broader community, especially when we're not impeding on any of the agricultural use that's already there. We're going to be using an existing shed on the property, so there will be no impediment on any actual farmable land. So this proposal also supports both the responsible stewardship of our farmland and the county's vision for resilient multi-use agricultural operations. So now in considering our proposal, it's important to recognize that our county has already had several successful kennels that have undergone similar planning processes or operate within comparable setbacks that we're asking for today. Two that come to mind right now, so facilities such as Doggo Den and Countryside Kennels have both previously received both zoning changes and minor variances respectively to support their operations. Now specifically, Aaron did mention that the setback from 180 meters to the proposed, I believe 64 meters is what's proposed there, is significant, but specifically with Countryside, they had asked for a minor variance prior to the changes in the county's setback zoning for kennels. It was originally set to 300 meters. They then wanted to ask for, I believe it was approximately an 80-meter setback. So they were asking for a 220-meter setback, which was approved, and we're only asking for less than 120 here. So significantly lower than what had already been set as precedents here in the county. Now Doggo Den also has a significantly less setback than us, and they also don't have the same types of sound mitigation measures that we will have in place. Their fencing is just complete wire fencing that has no sound barrier. There's no visible barrier, and they're at 50 meters from a dwelling on a separate property. Other facilities include Action Packs, Purple Hill Kennels, Rolling Gate Canine Center, They're all currently operating within the 180-meter setback. They're all well-established, low-impact businesses. So these operations demonstrate that there's strong local precedent for kennels functioning responsibly and successfully within the county's planning framework. They provide valuable economic contributions to the community while maintaining positive relationships with neighboring properties. So their success shows that our small managed, well-managed kennel can also operate effectively within this 180-meter setback. So lastly, I would like to reassure council and the community that we're committed to be proactive in the community and encourage all community engagement. We proactively engage not only the county, but nearby residents to address concerns and answer questions early. We've also provided contact information to nearby residents for any ongoing communication and are committed to an open line of communication with the community to ensure positive community impact. So our overall approach goes above and beyond current industry standards. We have followed guidelines from acoustic engineers, veterinarians, and certified trainers, and we're using current kennel best practices that are consistent with provincial standards, and we're committed to providing well above the minimum mitigation strategies, all while proposing just a very small boutique style kennel and not a large style boarding facility. Again, I want to thank you for your time and consideration. That's all I have.
Thanks very much. Okay, is there anyone in the gallery who wants to speak to this matter? Push the center button on the mic and then just state your name and your property address.
Mike Bennett. I'm here with my wife Gail. We're the owners of 466 Harrietsville Drive, and we are the neighbors of this proposed dog kennel. Very interesting information. As far as being approached with questions and answers, we were not approached with questions and answers. We learned about this back in the first part of September when I approached them and they were building fences on the south part of the building. And I was informed at that time it was going to be a dog kennel built for emergency purposes for their daughter. They were quickly admonished. We were told them that we were not in agreement with this. And so the next couple of weeks, they're building wooden fences where the proposed red spot is there now. We go to Holland to visit our son end of October, come back on November 4th, and we find the application. I find that encouraging because they were going to start building it 2 months ago without permission from the township. And now they're here getting permission. So that's, I guess the system works. Okay. Very interesting that they're going to put in systems to control the noise. Okay. We're surrounded by dogs in our neighborhood. The one across the street, very good. They keep the dog inside. The one down the road across the road down to the east. When I'm sitting in my living room at nighttime, I can hear the dog barking while we're trying to watch weather, news, whatever the case may be. Their son next door has a dog. They like to leash it out behind us when we hear it. I think the dog can count to 200 by barking. They have a dog. They have 2 dogs. And they do allow it on to they've got a milk house that's going to be their patio. And they allow it to bark. It's not out there doing anything. It can't do its thing because it's on a steel roof. We come back from Holland, and Holland's 6 hours ahead of time. And we're going to bed at 9:30 at night, which is actually 3:30 Holland time, and a dog's barking. And this has happened quite a few occasional times. They're trying to keep the dog quiet because they're trying to get our buy-in into this. And we have no faith in this. I guess, how can we ensure all the systems they're going to put in place are going to work? Are the systems going to be in place before they start this up? What guarantee do we have that our serenity is going to continue? I have no faith. Why do I have no faith? They have a chicken operation. Now, there's a little history with this. We have a cat, and a cat prowls our yard. We do have trees all around our property. The cat goes from corner to corner to corner to corner. And the cat got some kind of fungal disease that's caused by bird droppings. They have chickens and the chickens like to roost in our backyard. Well, over time, the cat got this crypto something disease, and $4,200 labor or later at our cost, we've cured the cats and we've asked them to keep the chickens out of our yard. But we still have to call them to keep the chickens out of our yard, despite the fact that they drive up and down their laneway where the chicken coop is, and the chickens outside free and roaming. And they're not allowed in our backyard because of this $4,200 medical bill that we paid for this cat over the year and a half of veterinary services and everything else. So with having said that, we have no faith. So how can we guarantee that these systems are going to be put in place? So I guess in closing, you do have my letter. I've submitted it. If it's a viable business, then spend the money and follow the bylaws you have put in place. If you put the bylaws are there, obviously because somebody bigger than me and bigger than the rest of us have figured out that this is what is required. Okay. And if it's a viable business, build what you need to do and put it where it's supposed to be. Then I have no complaints because that's the bylaw. And I don't mind finding bylaws, but I don't like variances that encroach on me and my serenity. Okay. Because somebody's going to put all these systems in place and I know they're not going to be put in place. And I like, if they are going to be put in place, if you do agree to this, I like to have some kind of guarantee that these things are in place and is signed off by an engineer. That's all I'm asking for. I'm asking for peace and quiet. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone online, Sarah, who wishes to comment?
Yes, your worship, one moment. We have Sheila Brownell.
Okay.
Can you hear us, Sheila?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Okay, perfect. So we are the Foster's neighbor, obviously not quite as close as the Bennetts, but we are their direct neighbor. And I think just some of the things that have already been said, like I definitely support small business. I'm a member of the member services for the St. Thomas Chamber because I work in that community. And we spend a lot of time really trying to promote small businesses. And I feel like that was probably the first thing that appealed to me immediately when I heard about this. I agree with the farm life piece. We live on a farm that, currently, cannot sustain itself. So we both work full time and farm on weekends. And so I can appreciate what fosters are trying to do for their children a lot. We currently use the grooming facility that is there. Really, probably the most kind people that I've ever interacted with my pets. So, would we use the boarding facility? Potentially, for sure, we would. I think that they are conscientious. I think that they're good neighbors. And I don't think that they're looking to make anybody's life miserable. So, I do trust and believe all of the things that they say they're going to put into place. So that's it. I just want to support them. I want to support their children and just wanted to be here to say that on their behalf.
Sorry. Thanks very much then for your comments. I see one more hand here in the gallery. Again, would you state your name and your address, please?
My name's Christian. I live at 494 Harrietsville. It's the other dwelling on the property. Thank you everyone for your time. I just wanted to speak on the issue very quickly from two perspectives. First of all, as part of the family, as somebody who has a 5-month-old or just about growing up on the property, noise is a concern for us as well. You can imagine right around that 4-month sleep regression, we want our baby to sleep well. The facility's been looked at by a professional engineer. I've gone to school a little bit for professional engineering myself, audio engineering. And what I learned there is that the people that you trust are the PNGs. So I have no concerns on that. On the other hand, though, I do own the grooming business that's on the property. It's Hairy Tales Grooming. And I can't tell you how valuable it would be for me and for my clients to have that traffic come to the farm. Yeah, and I just wanted to offer it. Thank you very much.
Thanks for your comments. Okay. Is there anyone else? Yes, come ahead.
So over the last few minutes there's been a few things brought up. So one, I do want to say that my wife did approach the Bennetts, walked over to their house, knocked on their door, let them know kind of what was happening, let them know that we were going through all the right processes to get the acoustical engineer, follow all the right kind of approaches, so that we could have minimal impact to our neighbors. Now it was received with a very aggressive approach, wasn't really kind of able to be beneficial for anybody. So there was kind of lots of, no, I wouldn't say screaming, but loud voices, intimidation tactics, kind of just not beneficial for anybody. Now the systems and kind of how, again, we have the acoustical engineer who, it's in his professional opinion as a PN, she's not just an engineer, he's also a professional engineer. His stamp is on our report. And now we've also spoke with Aaron and Lindsay about kind of the site planning requirements, that there'll actually be a piece of like kind of finance that will be required, holding finances to the county, that site planning, we're going to have to follow all the things that are kind of laid out in that site planning. So there will be some kind of financial loss if we didn't kind of follow through with all the things that we're saying, which I believe to be $2,000. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Through you, your worship, site plan securities are $5,000 minimum based on site works.
Sorry, our site plan control bylaw states it's 66.6% of the estimated site works. If it is under that, or based on the scope of the site plan, sometimes we do a minimum.
Perfect. So again, that will just kind of go to show that there will be something on the line so that we do follow these. Also, like we said, we're very open to community engagement. If there are any issues, we have provided our number. If anything needs to be done, we'll address it very quickly. And just quickly mention, again, I don't want to take anybody's time unnecessarily. The disease that he's speaking about from his cat is very, very commonly transmitted by pigeons. Pigeons can come from anywhere. We don't currently have pigeons on the property. His cat is an unsupervised cat. Unsupervised cats get sick. Can't kind of pinpoint where they get sick, how they get sick. And again, we didn't know that he was kind of blaming any of this on us until November 19th, when we received a letter in our mailbox specifically asking for the $4,200 regarding his cat's medical bills there. Everything else there, I think, was kind of touched upon in our supporting documents and what I mentioned earlier and kind of what Aaron went over. So it's all there for you guys to review over the next few weeks. Thanks again for your time.
Thank you. Make it as brief as you can, please.
In response, there was no yelling at my house. My wife couldn't attest to that. She did not come over to talk about engineer designs. She came over to make sure there was no hard feelings between her father and myself, because I just spent a year and a half helping them frame the house inside the barn. Okay, free labor, because we're family. Gail's is their cousin. So again, I want to make sure that there was no yelling between her or I. Gail was actually the witness in the living room, so she can attest to that.
We can't
And also,
get into
as far as the
neighbor
veterinarian bills,
disputes.
I can provide veterinarian backup papers that will address that. Thank you very kindly.
Thank you. All right, so I'm going to turn it over at this moment then, if there are any, questions or comments from the members of the committee. Anyone comment? Councillor Heeman?
Yes, thank you. It's good to see an entrepreneurial approach and looking at on-farm diversified use. Obviously, you've done your homework, you know what you're talking about. I would just like to add some additional context to the applications that you referenced. Those applications where they got the variance, they also had the support of their neighbors. That spoke very, very strongly towards allowing that. And that is important because if you don't have the support of your neighbors have the right of appeal. And if it's going against the bylaw, then they're likely going to win that appeal. Right. So that is important that you do have the support. Oh, I had another one. I lost it. It's a long night. The other point is that you do have to get a license, and that license is subject to non-renewal if there are significant complaints. And that's why it's so important that, you know, we do have a cohesive neighborhood. So I see that, and this is my opinion, you know, I'm not a planner, but that's what I think. And I think the planning department has wisely asked for some time to consider some things here. And I think that it would be wise to try and mend some fences in that interim.
Thank you, Councillor Heeman. Anyone else wishing to comment or ask a question? Okay, we have a recommended motion before us, also attached to your agenda and to appear shortly on the screen. Okay, it's being received with staff being directed to bring back a subsequent report. Moved by Deputy Mayor Smybert and seconded by Councillor Crockett. All in favor? Okay, that motion carries. All right, thank you to everyone for your participation here tonight. It's much appreciated. All right, 8.2 is the adjournment of the Committee of Adjustment. Mover and the seconder that the Committee of Adjustment adjourn at 7:11 p.m. and council reconvene its regular meeting. Moved by Deputy Mayor Smybert and seconded by Councillor Crockett. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. All right, another motion that the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on November the 10th be approved as circulated. Deputy Mayor Smybert and Councillor Heeman. All right, all in favor? That carries. Thanks. Items on the consent agenda, which is item number 10. Items listed under the consent agenda are received for information in one motion. Council members may request that one or more items be separated for further action. So the consent agenda items, I'm going to ask first if anyone wishes to pull any of these. Okay. Michelle, did you indicate one?
I'm not going to ask to poll. I just wanted to make a really quick comment.
Certainly.
Which I know I probably shouldn't do. I just noticed that there's a bit of a, I guess, a trend in terms of what some of the items consist of. So I just thought it was interesting how some municipalities are asking for funding to offset the OPP police costs because we did get funding last year to help us with the cost, but they're rolling that back. And in addition to that, they're taking away some of the tools that help us kind of get the revenue, such as the automated speed enforcement and also making some changes to the Provincial Offences Act. So, but I think we're well served by AMO and AMCTO, so they are on that. But I just want to make that comment, and I'll move that we receive.
Okay, so I'm going to just speak briefly of 10.3 Kettle Creek Conservation Authority, KCCA Board Resolution on Conservation Authorities, CA, as they are known, consolidation. There will be legislation being brought through the provincial government on this matter. As a member of the board, obviously we have some concerns with 36 CAs being pulled into 7 and a large region for us with a lot of other things unknown. I would like to ask that staff provide some correspondence within the commenting period of December 22nd.
So just to clarify, Mayor, you'd like staff to provide comments back to council, like draft comments back to council for the commenting period, or would you like you want us to develop a report? Just to clarify.
I think at this moment, correspondence to speak.
You're asking us to
Yeah.
develop comments back for you guys to vote on at the next meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
Does anyone have a comment or an objection to that?
Just had a question, like, are the conservation authorities, so are they doing that kind of,
They are.
right? So
They
is it,
are. They have indicated that perhaps some municipal support, because what's going to happen is the municipalities are going to still be required, if this legislation passes, to contribute, but there is no real indication whether or not we will have a voice on that.
yeah, so I'm just wondering if maybe we wait until we get some of the correspondence from those conservation authorities and then we can endorse that? as
Okay, I'm
opposed to
fine with that
staff
too.
Taking the first stab at it.
All right, I'm fine with that then as well. All right, so going back then to the motion. Oh, I'm sorry.
Just to note, there is a motion in there. They're asking that like a support resolution in, what was there? Just, do you want to move to support it or no? Okay, I just wasn't sure where we're at. Okay.
Okay, are we accepting then to the clerk all items under the consent agenda? Okay, a mover and a seconder. Moved by Deputy Mayor Smybert and seconded by Councillor Heeman. All in favor? Okay, that carries. Thanks. All right, reports of departments. 11.1, application for a minor variance. A2-25 Sifton Properties Limited, applicant Sifton Properties Limited, care of, I don't think it's Alec, you don't look like Alexandra Hassett. You're subbing in again? Lucky you, eh? Okay, for blocks 1, 2, 6, 7, 8, 11, and 15 at Hawthorne Park subdivision in Dorchester. And Ms. Cortez.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. So as the committee will recall, this application was heard at the November 10th, 2025 council meeting, and based on concerns raised by the committee, specifically the request to reduce the minimum front yard depth requirements for blocks 1, 2, 7, 11, and 15 from a minimum of 7.5 meters to a minimum of 6 meters. The application was deferred back to staff to permit further discussions with the applicant and to provide the applicant an opportunity to amend their application. So in response to the concerns brought forward by the committee, the applicant has advised that they wish to amend the application to remove the request for a reduced front yard depth for blocks 1, 2, 7, 11, and 15. The applicants wish to maintain the requested variances for reduced interior side yard depth. That's applicable to blocks 1, 2, 7, 11, and 15, as well as reduced lot area applicable to blocks 6 and 8, increased density applicable to block 8, and to permit a porch to encroach in an interior side yard specific to unit 1 of block 6. So just as a sure, the purpose and effect of the application is to seek relief from the minimum interior side yard provision for blocks 1, 2, 7, 11, 15. The applicant is also requesting relief from minimum lot area and side yard encroachment obstruction regulations with respect to block 6. Furthermore, the applicant is requesting relief as it relates to minimum lot area and maximum density per hectare with respect to Block 8 and of the Hawthorne Park subdivision. So through part law control exemption request PLC 01/2025, the applicant sought to further subdivide blocks 1, 2, 6, 7, 8, 11, and 15. The request to subdivide blocks 1, 2, 7, 11, and 15 was endorsed by council at the November 10th meeting, and that'll be forwarded to the County of Middlesex for consideration. The request to subdivide blocks 6 and 8 was deferred at the meeting since zoning compliance, specifically lot area and density, is a requirement for appeals the exemption request, and without application A2-25 being approved by the committee, blocks 6 and 8 are not in compliance. So blocks 1, 2, 7, 11, and 15, the variance for reduced interior side yard depth is requested to make more efficient use of land while providing for minimum separation between units as required by the OBC. For block 6 and 8, the reduced minimum lot area is being requested as the proposed lot frontage for each unit, and the average depth results in a minimum lot area of approximately 231 square meters. The variance for interior side yard encroachment is being requested as currently the zoning bylaw does not allow for any encroachments into interior side yards and only permits them in rear yards and exterior side yards and front yards. And lastly, the variance to permit an increased unit per hectare is requested to accommodate the 16 street fronting townhouse units that are proposed for block 8. So staff have evaluated the variances against the 4 tests of a minor variance and is of the opinion that all 4 tests have been met. So staff would like to note the recommendation has been amended to reflect the correct parts of the reference plan for block 6. So staff recommend that application for minor variance A2-25 be approved subject to the one condition noted in the report for the reasons outlined in the report. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Cortez. Any questions from the members of council on this? Councillor Heyman.
No, I'd just like to thank the applicant and staff for figuring this out. And if you rewind 2 hours ago, it sounds like the community does like this this development and that it's better than some of your colleagues. So thank you for all your hard work to make things fit here.
Any other questions? I'd just like to make respectfully make a very brief comment. We are getting these minor variance requests, and I totally understand that, and I totally understand why you are asking them. But I would like to make one comment. This is a result of our comprehensive bylaw not being up to date. And in order to update that, we would need to revise our official plan. But we can't do that because the company is currently has an appeal against it would make, respectfully, it would make life a little easier for both you and for council if we could work on that. Okay? All right. Okay. So we have a motion before us then. It's appended to your motion, I'm sorry. Okay, moved by Councillor Heeman then and seconded by Deputy Mayor Smyber. All in favor? Okay, that carries. Thanks very much. Okay, 11.2 is the application for part lot control exemption PLC -1-25 Sifton Properties Limited as the applicant, Sifton Properties Limited and as the agent, and block 6-8 Hawthorne Park subdivision in Dorchester. Okay, Elena?
Thank you, Mayor, through you. So as council will recall, at the November 10th council meeting, consideration of this application with respect to block 6 and block 8 was deferred by council. Specifically, the request for part lot control exemption for these blocks was deferred, considering that zoning compliance for lots to be subdivided is required. To achieve compliance for lots proposed to be subdivided through this request, and to facilitate the residential development of the blocks, the applicants have submitted minor variance application A2-25. And it's important to note that minimum lot area and increased density are regulations that impact lot fabric. And therefore, without approval of these variances through application A2-25, the lots within block 6 and block 8 would not comply with the zone. So following the amendment to minor variance application A2-25 and its scheduled consideration today, this request for part lot control exception is being brought forward for consideration. The purpose of the application is to extend an exemption of certain lands from the Planning Act provisions with respect to a part lot control to allow further subdivision of lands to facilitate the development of freehold street towns. So the PPS states that settlement areas shall be the focus of growth and development, and Dorchester is a designated community area according to the county and an urban settlement area according to the municipal official plan. The PPS also states that municipal water and municipal sanitary sewage services are the preferred form of servicing for settlement areas, and the subject property is proposed to be serviced by full municipal services. So based on the lotting and layout of the attached reference plans and concept plans and the previous decision, the proposed lotting would meet the requirements of the zone. So staff recommend that application PLC-01 be approved for block 6 and 8, and that the implementing bylaw be considered in the bylaw portion of the agenda, and that the adopted bylaw be forwarded to the County of Middlesex for consideration of approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Alana. Any questions from council? No? Okay, we a mover and a seconder for the recommended motion. Deputy Mayor Smybert and Councillor Heeman. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. Okay, we're moving on to policy number, item number 11.3, policy review, tree canopy and pregnancy and parental leave for council members' policies. We're going to turn to the clerk for this report.
Evening again. This is another one of my journey through our many policies. I did hope to have more, so I do apologize, but life gets a little busy sometimes. So right now we have the tree canopy and pregnancy and parental leave for council members policies, neither of which had any major changes. Just some cleaning up of some wording. So we follow, I think, what might have been the intent of the previous policy, but we just clarified some stuff. And then along with the tree canopy, we did actually have it reviewed by our Environmental Advisory Committee on November 6th, along with planning staff who did review it too. And so they made some minor changes, but nothing large. The Environmental Advisory Committee also recommended, as part of the development process, the tree compensation or landscape plans should make sure they're prepared by a certified arborist. But other than that, there wasn't a lot, but it is good to have eyes on these regularly. I don't actually say it in these policies, but some of them I do. We are going to try to do this. So we circle through them every term of council, almost every policy. So get used to me and my policy conversations. So yeah, that's everything.
Thanks, Jana. So the motion is before you, unless council has some questions. You have questions?
Yeah, I just want to say thanks again, Jana, for kind of taking on this task of reviewing the policies, specifically, obviously, in interest of Hannah's arrival. I reviewed the parental leave policy for council members, and there was some questionable direction in the existing policy. So I appreciate that update.
Okay. Mover or your seconder, or were you signaling for a question? Okay, question.
Yeah, no, again, thank you for doing the work to get things up to date, and yeah, doing everything every term I think is a good idea. And yeah, a lot of these are living documents, and we live in a fast-paced world, so thank you.
And Deputy Mayor Smybert?
Just a question with respect to the tree canopy bylaw or policy, sorry. Do we have a listing of native trees or species that are recommended by staff?
We actually do as part of the tree planting policy. There's a fully native list in there as well. And I do believe they use this, it's the same one they take out of their, I think, development or site plan control, but yeah, we definitely have one. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? All right, a mover and a seconder for the motion on your agenda. Moved by Councillor Crockett and seconded by Deputy Mayor Smyberg. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. Item number 11.4, recycling services for non-eligible ICI sources, financial and operational impacts. Mr. Craven.
Thank you, Your Worship. Before you report PW 017-25, Ontario's Blue Box program shifts to full EPR on January 1st, 2026, making industrial, commercial, and institutional properties ineligible for producer-funded curbside recycling. Thames Center services roughly 217 IC&I sites, but only about 70 participate regularly in the program. Municipalities must decide whether we continue to fully fund this collection program at roughly $130,000 annually, supporting businesses, but adds administrative burdens, or discontinue the program to cut costs, align with the province, but risk higher private fees and waste diversion loss. The next waste contract RFP can include the IC&I pricing options. This, again, there's a lot of information in this industrial, commercial, and institutional. Schools, hospitals, businesses, for our purposes, is commercial establishments here, basically non-residential. So again, a lot of information packed in this, but it'll allow them to continue recycling collection and maintain the current level of service. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to help. It's just more of an information report.
Anybody with any questions concerning this report? Okay, then, a mover and now it's me. A mover in the seconder that for the recommended motion appended to your agenda. Councillor Crockett and Deputy Mayor Smyberg. All in favor? Councillor Heeman, are you opposed? Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. That carries. Thank you. Now, the next item is 11.5, additional stormwater management charge scenarios and rebate options for the 2026 budget consideration. And again, Mr. Craven.
Thank you, Worship. PW 018-25 is a response to a report, a delegate motion, long night, motion from a previous council meeting. Again, it's packed with a lot of information. The 2024 stormwater rate study by Watson Associates focused on keeping funding stable by considering replacement cost, future projects, and current staffing. Changing from the current tiered flat rate could make these estimates unreliable, possibly leading to a new expensive study costing upwards of $40,000 and potentially leaving stormwater funding short. Using a uniform flat rate would be unfair, putting extra financial pressure on smaller homes, not properly reflecting how much runoff they create. A model based on impervious surfaces would be fair, but would need complex mapping and more staffing, which could drive up cost in our small municipality. Offering rebates for environmentally friendly practices like rain gardens would require inspections and additional employees, making it complicated, increasing the rates for others, providing clear benefits. Overall, keeping the tiered flat rate is simple, doesn't require more staffing, and ensures stable funding until 2023. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
So any questions from council? I know, I'm sorry, right. Can you bring in then the people who want to speak online? Yeah. One of our residents, Mr. Greg Strauss, has requested to delegate to council regarding this staff report And as chair, I will give him 5 minutes to provide his feedback. So if Mr. Strauss is online, let us know when you can hear us.
I'm good. Can everybody hear me?
Okay. Yes, go ahead.
Perfect. Thank you, Your Worship. I appreciate the time to speak. And again, I'd like to thank staff for being able to accommodate me remotely as I'm up in Kitchener dealing with some health issues with my father. So my wife and I were pretty passionate about this because it's all about fairness. And Kathy and I have always prided ourselves in fairness in all of our business dealings. This policy based on land size is just not fair. Staff has admitted in the town halls that were run in the springtime that having a bigger yard doesn't mean you're putting more water into the storm sewers. And again, in this new report, staff is saying that building footprints and paved areas generate more stormwater runoff, and thus place a higher demand on the stormwater system. So then why would we be penalizing those of us with larger yards into this paying double to what our neighbors beside us are paying when we're all equal, we are all contributing equally to the stormwater runoff? Or actually, and I think it'd be a pretty good business case to say that having more grass areas actually reduces your runoff. And that is why we think this policy is totally unfair. Again, all residents are getting benefit from stormwater sewer, as staff mentioned in the town hall, because of the road use. That's where most of the water is coming from. Thus, I would say it's probably fair that all residential users pay the same rate. I think we did a good step last year with this policy and identifying that commercial users are actually contributing more stormwater. They have more paved areas. They have a bigger footprint, as staff state in the new report. So those charges, I think, are fair. I did send a memo to council just doing a quick calculation with the current rates from the season with the 3,000 households and the money that was contributed at the tiered rate. If we divide that out equally to all the homeowners, that would only mean $96.37. And again, those are going with 2025 numbers because I don't know how many new houses are in the system for 2026. And I'm unsure of the exact cost increases that you guys were budgeting for your system. So I believe that is fair, that all the residential homeowners are paying the same price. The other option would be to actually base it on the building footprint and paved areas like staff say. Whether this would take 2 full-time additional staff, I would hope not. I think everybody needs a building permit to build a building here in the Thames Center. So I'm sure all that info would be on hand, just like you did when you calculated based on the property size. So again, we're just asking for a wrong to be righted. We're asking for a fair solution. And we're asking for decisions to be made on facts. And yes, don't penalize people that aren't contributing to extra stormwater runoff. And I think everybody has agreed that residential lots are not the big concern here. So we're asking that we take maybe one of those two options, which would be fairly simple, and defeat this staff motion and come up with a solution that is actually fair to all, and don't penalize the 1,000 homeowners that have some larger grassed areas. Thank you, Your Worship.
Okay, then. Thanks very much for your comments. I'll turn this over to council for any questions or comments.
Well, I want to thank, for your worship, I want to thank staff for bringing the report forward. And I understand that this additional system recommendations would require significant financial outlay to do additional modeling. Since we had this discussion, I think some of the properties that would not, in my mind, have received the same benefit or have been proven to be the opposite in terms of funds from these fees that are enabling new storm projects within the urban area. So I think that that's caused me to look at this from a different perspective. And I think that when you look at areas that do have other drainage options than municipal, they also then would be susceptible to getting drainage fees under the Drainage Act at additional one-time cost. And so this does accommodate some of those marginal properties and gives them a different payoff option. That said, to address the comments that we just received, it's called stormwater. And this is to deal with something called storm flow. And storm flow is when you are above the soil's capacity to receive moisture. So I think lawns are great at receiving moisture. One would argue agricultural fields are great at getting moisture. And you still have overland flow on any surface during torrential rain events. And I think that's what storm drains are for. It's not for the normal percolation of a shower. It's for the heavy rain events that don't give regard for grass or surface. Yes, some surfaces flow faster than, but in a heavy storm event, it's about area of downpour. So yeah, thank you for the report, and thank you for educating us.
Thanks, Councillor Heeman. Deputy Mayor Smybury?
Right, thank you. Yeah, I also wanted just to thank staff for bringing forward the report. We spent a lot of time dealing with the consultant's report and the study that came in, and we asked some of those questions, and we approved a plan because we need to address a shortfall in funding for our stormwater project. So I would like to see us stick to that plan because I honestly do think that any changes that we make to the plan moving forward may compromise our financial position.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor Smybury. Anyone else with a comment? And Sarah, I forgot to ask you, did we have anyone else online? Okay.
Mr. Strauss has his hand up. I don't know if you want to address that.
Okay. Mr. Strauss, did you have another comment? Okay. All right.
Sorry about that. Very good.
Okay.
Okay, just want to go back to the statement. The 3113 residential homes are using the stormwater service equally. They should be paying the same rate. The commercial, yes, should be separate. It's an easy calculation. It wouldn't take any extra staff time. And we would all be paying a $96.37 fee this year, instead of some of us paying 144 and some of us paying 216, and rather than the 72 that 2000 get to enjoy. Again, a policy that is not based on facts is not a good policy.
Okay, thank you for your comments. I appreciate that. Is there anything else that council wants to, before we move to the decision? Nothing? Okay, then. We have a motion before us that report number PW 018-25 be received for information. Actually, one moment, please. I'm sorry for the hesitation. There was one of our counselors is on vacation but has submitted a comment. So I'm going to ask the clerk to read it. Then we'll move to the motion.
So Councillor Lockie requested that the following be entered into related to this. Request that council, she's requesting through your worship that council consider modifying the policy to accommodate properties that have unusual and slightly larger lot size compared to neighboring dwellings. If 80% or more of the dwellings in a particular neighborhood fall into a small category, could we classify all the homes in that neighborhood within that category? This would accommodate for homeowners such as Mr. Strauss who contribute the same amount of stormwater as their neighbors.
Thanks to the clerk. Any further comments regarding that? No. All right. Well, we have the motion before us. A mover and a seconder. Anyone wish to move it? Deputy Mayor Smyberg? Anyone to second? Councillor Crockett? Any further discussion? Okay. All in favor? And none opposed, so that motion carries. All right. Reports of committees under item number 12 on your agenda. The items listed under the reports of committees are approved by council in one motion. Excuse me. Council members may request that one or more items be separated for further action. So the motion that reports of committees agendas item 12.1 through 12.3 be approved as presented. Moved by Councillor Heeman and seconded by Deputy Mayor Smyberg. All in favor? That motion carries. Let me see. So we're moving into unfinished business. I don't know of any other items and no notices of motion that I'm aware of. And the same with any new business. Okay. So item number 16 is the bylaw. So a mover and a seconder that bylaws 86-2025 through 90-2025 be read a first, second, and third time and finally be adopted. Moved by Councillor Heeman and seconded by Deputy Mayor Smyberg. All in favor? Thank you. That carries. Finally, the meeting schedule for upcoming meetings. Monday, December the 8th, 2025 at 9 a.m. is a special budget meeting for council. Monday, December the 8th, 2025 at 5 p.m. will be our regular meeting. So then last thing is an adjournment, motion to adjourn at 7:46 p.m. Councillor Heeman and Deputy Mayor Smyberg. All in favor?